Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm your host, Lisa Oligas. In this edition, we celebrate Women's History Month by honoring a former educator who worked here when the university was still Joplin Junior College, Mary Kirk Kelly. She helped launch the Model UN program, which is still operating here at Missouri Southern. We'll visit with a student and faculty involved with Model UN, but we begin our conversation with a representative of the historic Murfreesburg Preservation Organization, Mary Ann Phillips. Thank you for joining us and helping us celebrate this person and calling attention to her efforts. It's exciting.
It's exciting, and it was by accident that we stumbled across her story.
So tell us about that, because how did you determine, you have a role in preserving history in Murfreesburg, but how did you come on to Mary Kirk Kelly?
It was kind of crazy. When you start doing historical research, you go down rabbit holes and then you find another rabbit hole. But one of the neighbors had an unusual painting on the inside of this garage that's just a few houses north of my house. Technically, it's not in Murfreesburg. And so at first I thought, oh, I'm too busy, I've got enough to do with Murfreesburg, but it was so intriguing, we agreed to investigate it. There were folk paintings, if you will, of African theme all over the inside of this garage, detached garage at First and Sergeant. And I'm like, why in the world would someone paint this? And the current owners said that the owner they bought it from, who they'd known for decades, who lived next door to them, said, oh, well, that's because this used to be a bus stop for the African-American residents, and coming and going, and this was a bus stop. And I'm like, I don't think so. Right. I don't think so. There was a trolley over on Byers, a path, which Byers, Moffett, Sarge is not that far away. But I wasn't buying it. But I thought, I'll research this. So I looked to see who all the previous owners were before him. And that's when, I came with Mary Kirk Kelly. And so simple Google search, and all of a sudden, all this stuff just starts popping up that she was a teacher at Joplin Junior College. And well, that wasn't too surprising because Veldrin Anderson, who told the story about the bus stop, he also was a teacher at Joplin Junior College. So when time to move on, when she was time to move on, she sold the house to him. Yeah. So anyhow, I thought.
So she lived there. We're talking 1950s.
Late 50s. Yeah.
1957 to 1963 is when she taught here at Joplin Junior
And that's
College.
when she lived there with her two daughters. And so we just thought, nah, I don't think so. But it took us down the path of looking at the Negro Traveler Green Book. And then we found out, oh yeah, there is a house very close by that was on the list over on A Street. And so, you get all these little clues, but you just don't have the proof. Finally, I got a hold of her daughter, who's in her mid-70s. And she laughed and laughed, and she was very embarrassed, actually. And she said, we just painted those on the on the garage because we had a bunch of paint. It had nothing to do with anything.
And it was their own art.
Yeah, but then she starts telling me about her mother and that her mother became an artist. So, it was just amazing that this woman was teaching sociology and government and history, but yet then became an artist. And so then she ended up becoming a ceramic artist. And she did fruit and vegetables and mushrooms and all kinds of, inanimate objects, but in ceramics, but they were so realistic, very trompe-l'oeil. And people from all over the world bought them and collected them. I mean, she was like this cult figure in American ceramics. And
which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they used, all the critics used the word legendary for her.
Wow. So that was her sort of other side career. But as an instructor here, she was history, sociology, and so she is known for helping bring Model UN to this area. So tell us how you discovered that and where that happened when it was first here in Joplin in the 1950s and early 60s.
Well, the best I can determine is she started in 1962 with the International College department, if you will. I'm not sure quite what it was called. And so then they raised money and started preparing to be delegates to the model, which is like a simulation of what the UN is.
Yeah.
And so she, brought these students along and taught them and trained them, and they, ended up going to St. Louis for the actual conference. But in the process of starting that at the school, that also for the whole city, she started Joplin's UN Day. Previous years, mayors had made proclamations. I proclaim that October 24th is UN Day. Okay, but nothing really came of it. Or the American Women, or the American Association of University Women, they would, and League of Women Voters, and they'd have guest speakers talk about the UN or the World Bank. But there was no real event.
So she created an event, and it happened at Connor Hotel?
At the Connor, of course. Where else? Where else would you have something?
At the time, that was
at the time
really,
was the place,
yes.
And but then also because of all her work in getting the UN Day started in Joplin, then she got a signed service award from President Kennedy, and this was in 1962, so not too
long before his assassination.
Yeah. But it was kind of, the timing of it was kind of interesting because UN Day had started way back, in the 40s. But I don't know that much was done with it, probably in Washington, D.C. or New York.
But President Kennedy was known for trying to get people to do service to, the Peace Corps and a number of those things. So he had more of an international edge in that sense. And so this kind of gives people a flavor of being connected to the world.
And he probably wanted to thank people and get leaders to keep working on UN Day.
As a woman, I mean, is it really amazing that she did this as a woman in that time period? I mean, is it significant that we recognize her as someone who did something sort of groundbreaking that still lives on in a legacy today?
I assumed it, but I went through Brad Belk's book on 75 Years of Lion Pride, which of course goes back to 1937 on the faculty, and I looked at the male-female ratio of the faculty,
right?
And really it was pretty even.
Brad did feature her year, the year she was on the faculty in this book. She's there.
Here she is on page 69. Just a very attractive woman, very attractive.
And so that would have been right around the time that she had the United Nations Day in Joplin.
Right.
And then got that proclamation and the signed service award.
She got the proclamation from the Joplin mayor, and then of course the signed service award from President Kennedy. And then she got wonderful speakers from the UN, and they talked about the World Bank. How many students do you think know anything about the World Bank today, or adults?
And that's what we hope
she was very sophisticated.
Yeah, and that's what we hope they continue learning through the Model UN program that's still here. So as an artist, though, she became worldwide and known internationally because of her ceramics.
Yes. I just thought that was crazy that there's people in France, I've got to have a Mary Kirk Kelly cabbage terrine,
So why is it important to honor Kirk Kelly's history when it comes to relation to Joplin's history? Do you think it's a profound part of Joplin's history?
It's exciting to know that what she started with the UN model, back in 62, 63, that now today in 2023, it's still going on.
Yeah. Well, we do appreciate you telling us about Mary Kirk Kelly and how it all started in our area here today. Thank you for sharing that with us, Mary Ann Phillips.
Sure, thank you.
When we come back, we will speak with faculty about the Model UN program here at Missouri Southern. Stay with us. For more than 25 years now, the Model United Nations Club has provided MSSU students with an opportunity to learn about the work of the most important international organization ever devised and to explore current global issues by taking an active role as delegates in college-level conferences. Joining us to discuss Model UN here at MSSU are Dr. Rebecca Shriver, Assistant Professor of History, and Dr. Chad Stebbins, Director of the Institute of International Studies. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So Model UN is not only a club, it's a class. Tell us a little bit about how students can earn credit for this and how it operates as a class.
So when Nicole Schoaf and I took over the course and club, we started also thinking about how this could be used by our students in history and international and political affairs, and really how we could build it in even to more degrees and certificate programs as we were developing those. So now it is available as a repeatable credit in both history and IPA, and actually fulfills a requirement that they have to have for active learning. So it's a great opportunity for the students, and they can repeat it because we are representing different countries each time, and they will be assigned to different committees. So it's a really great opportunity for them.
Yeah, it's exciting. And I mean, they can earn credit, and so there's a lot of research involved.
Correct.
So that's a good thing for students to feel like, oh, a club doesn't want to feel like work sometimes.
Right.
So, but it is a neat opportunity for the students. Tell us what happens at conference that can be what you like for them to learn when they're at conference.
I mean, the research skills that they gain, but more than that, the public speaking, the confidence, the ability to negotiate and be diplomatic. And that's an incredibly valuable skill, and you can really see the growth in their maturity after they've gone through it. And most students who go through the course, whether they take the course again or not, they will participate in the club because they enjoy it so much. And it's actually kind of a shame because so many of our students don't get into it until the junior and senior year, and they're like, oh, but I want to go back. So
I could have done this as a freshman
yes,
or sophomore.
Yeah, and even myself, when I look back, I'm like, oh, I should have done this, because I didn't do it when I was in college. So I would have loved that experience, but students absolutely adore it. It's a great opportunity for them to meet other people from across the U.S. And it's also a really good opportunity for Missouri Southern because other faculty members, they'll see my name tag. They're, oh, you're the faculty for Missouri Southern. Your students are so enthusiastic. They are such good ambassadors for your school, and they are. So we're making a big impact that way.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, in recent years, students have represented the country that was featured in our semester that we honor. So Chad Stebbins, tell us a little bit about why that is kind of a great thing to have that collaboration and have the students kind of extending what our mission is for that semester.
Well, as you know, in the 1960s, the Model UN existed as a club at Joplin Junior College, and then it languished in the 70s and 80s. And then in 1995, after Missouri Southern was officially given the state international mission designation, we created a class, International Studies 308, the Model UN, and gave students the opportunity to participate in the club and go to the national conference in Chicago the week before Thanksgiving. And so many of our graduates, when I've spoken with them, they all refer to the Model UN experience as being one of the top 2 or 3 things they did in their career at Missouri Southern. And they all still listed on their resume, and they mentioned the public speaking skills and the research skills that Dr. Shriver alluded to, and it's just been so wonderful for us because it ties in beautifully with our international mission.
And when we have a designated semester, like this year, I believe the students did represent Czechia, which they actually might have gotten to talk to students who were here. How is that good to kind of extend what our semester is and our international missions when we, really look at the history of a certain nation?
Well, every fall we choose a different country to focus on, and last fall was the Czech Republic, and so our students were able to officially represent the Czech Republic at the conference in Chicago, and that's in November, and we have so many activities on campus pertaining to the Czech semester, guest speakers, lectures, various types of presentations. The students attend those, and so they kind of get up to speed on everything going on in Prague and Bohemia, and then when they go to the conference, they have that piece of knowledge under their belts, and that's something that most Model UN students wouldn't have the opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're researching maybe in books, but they're researching, meeting people who really are involved in that culture.
Absolutely, and I should have mentioned this when we talked about the course. One of the requirements for the course is that they go to X number of theme semester events so that they are very well versed in the culture and the history and the politics of the country that they're representing, which gives them a huge advantage because you can tell the difference between students who have been kind of given that background knowledge into their country and those maybe who are coming in with less preparation.
Well, you would
in
have that
regard.
first-person source, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I would be remiss if I didn't credit Dr. Paul Tevrow, a professor of history, and Dr. Bill Cambier, a professor of English, both who recently retired, as resurrecting the Model UN Club at Missouri Southern in 1995. And for the next 20 years, they co-directed that and always took students to Chicago to the Model UN conference.
It's a great experience. And so finally, I mean, they can't put their own opinions in. They have to represent another country.
Yeah.
Why is that such a good lesson that the students take away with this?
So it really gives them a better understanding of global politics and and understanding how international relations work, but also the empathy, thinking about putting yourself in someone else's shoes and what that, they apply that in different areas of their life, not just in thinking about international relations, but even when they meet someone from a different country and understanding where they're coming from. So it really teaches them a great deal of empathy, which is something that is hard to teach, but it's incredibly valuable.
A great opportunity for our students.
Well, and one more thing, fall 2023 will be the Ireland semester, and our delegation has already been assigned to represent Ireland. So
Excellent.
they're beginning their research now.
All right, sounds great. Great opportunity for students. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Coming up, we hear from a student about taking part in Model UN and the role of women in political history. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Newsmakers, where we are highlighting the contributions of Mary Kirk Kelly to MSSU and Joplin as one of the founders of the Model UN program during her tenure from 1957 to 1963. It's a club and a class. We are joined now by a student getting to experience Model UN, Maddie Enlow. Thank you for being here.
Hello, thank you.
So you've gotten to go to these Model UN conferences, but let's just start by helping people understand what it is when a students go there to Model UN.
So in Model UN, over the fall semester, we prepare in a class setting to get ready to go. So we learn the rules of Model UN, we learn how to write position papers, how to research the country. This year we were Czechia, so we had to do a lot of research about Czechia and their political history and current politics. And then we also get paired into groups depending on what committee we're going to be on, and then we prepare to be on that committee.
So you've gotten to go twice, you said. So what was that experience like for you?
So the first time I acted as our head delegate, so that meant that I basically made sure that everyone was in their proper spots. I helped people with research. I edited everyone's position papers and turned them into the conference. So it was a lot of pressure that year because I had to keep track of everyone and make sure that everyone was following the rules. And then this year I just went as a participant. So I was on the International Civil Aviation Organization Committee. It's a mouthful, sorry.
So what does that committee do if one didn't know what these
So
committees did?
that committee looks at different international civil aviation legislation and everything like that. This year we were discussing how to deal with pandemics after COVID in aviation. So it can't force any country to abide by its legislation, but it does create just resolutions and ideas for how the international community can work together to make aviation safe.
Yeah. So that was that one committee. So then, and then were other students from MSSU on other committees?
Yes. So
What kind of experiences would they have had?
there were quite a few different committees. I was the only one by myself. There was one committee that was dealing with world hunger, I believe.
Okay.
Another committee was dealing with women's rights. I can't remember what the last committee was.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
But it's kind of like government in general. There's all
Yes.
kinds of committee to deal with social problems or concerns of all those nations. So as a student, you said you did research, and people might understand, you went representing the thoughts of Czechia, right? So that was our Czech semester. And is that difficult for you as a student to not want to put your own thoughts and your own feelings into these position papers?
It was difficult at times, especially dealing with aviation, because part of the committee we discussed different fuel alternatives. And it's not that I think that their fuel alternatives are bad. It's just I didn't always agree with all of their political points on it or how they wanted to implement it. And also, coming from the United States, I had to put my mind into a smaller European nation rather than the U.S.
Right.
So
Bigger,
that,
more
yes.
resources.
Yeah, so that was a little bit difficult. And a lot of students struggle with that, I think, but we did work really hard to make sure that we were in the mindset of Czechia and that we were putting our own opinions aside. That's something that we get checked a lot for in class. A lot of times we would be asked, is that your opinion or is that the opinion of a delegate from Czechia? And so that was really helpful. And then we also got to meet with a group of students who were here from a study abroad trip. They were all history majors, I believe, and we got to ask them questions about their political history, what they might believe on certain topics, and that helped us represent them a lot better as
I was
well.
going to say, that should have been very informative.
Yes,
I mean,
it was wonderful.
I was going to say, did you make a call over to Czechia to say,
Yeah.
hey, what do you people think about this?
Yeah, it was really, really helpful, and I did make a few friends from that experience. So I would just text them, message them, and ask them if I had any questions or any issues with research.
How does this give you a different world vision? I mean, by putting yourself into the position of a delegate from another country.
It made me understand over the past 2 years, because last year we were Thailand. So two very different countries, two different parts of the world, different types of governments. It helped me understand better why there might be different viewpoints in the world, understand why there are different political issues. I feel like I also began to understand a little bit why the UN is so important. And I was really trying to appreciate that because there are so many different voices, and the UN is such a wonderful place for different voices to be heard, because anyone can speak at the UN. From any nation, any delegate can speak during the time where the floor is open. So it doesn't matter how big your population is or what type of government you have. If you're a delegate at the UN and you have an opinion or you want to add something to a resolution, you can make that known. It might not always work in your favor,
Sure.
but you still have that international platform to use your voice.
And it's helping then smaller nations who might not have, I mean, the U.S. has clout. Everybody's kind of
Yes.
listening to what the U.S. has to say, but they may have something of significance that others can maybe even learn from.
Yeah, and that is something that we really harped on this semester because we had a lot of new students. We were really excited. There were only 3 of us who were veterans and 2 of us who had actually gone to the conference before. So we kept reminding people that in the UN, in just a normal session, everyone is equal. So it doesn't matter if the United States thinks that you should do this thing. That's not, you have to follow what your country is saying because they don't have any power over you. Everyone is equal in that session. Everyone has the same amount of votes. Everyone gets to put a resolution on the floor if they can get it there.
What do you feel like you learn from doing this? I mean, whether it's even life skills or, I mean, you're a history major, correct? What does it teach you by going to Model UN?
I learned a lot of research skills on the fly because if a delegate gets up and says something that you want to respond to or that you don't agree with, you have a limited window of time to ask them a question or to raise your placard and try to get up and give a speech of your own. So you have to be able to quickly find what you're looking for, quickly understand the context that they're coming from, because you can't get up there and just go from your United States context. You have to think of their country and the country that you're supposed to be representing, and put that together into one question or one speech. And that was something that I honestly was not good at. Historians sometimes spend decades working on just one piece of work, one research project. And so that is something that I'm used to, is taking as long as I want on research. And so having to research and write a speech in a minute and get up and give it in front of a lot of people was really difficult my first year, but I really challenged myself to get better at it, and we practiced it a lot in class. And so I think that is something that I am very thankful for learning.
How do you think that can translate into what you do in life or a career?
Public speaking is the biggest thing. It's a very different type of public speaking than I do as a history student. So I feel more well-rounded now and prepared for things like that. Also, it helped me realize more that I was wanting to lean towards museum studies instead of just history, and gave me that love for presentation, and I feel like it prepared me better, and I felt more confident going into grad school applications and things like that, knowing I had that under my belt.
Do you feel there are other students who really learn about the politics of the world and can really then play a vital role in those?
I feel like a lot of students were really thankful that they had the opportunity to learn about politics in the context that we did. Because a lot of courses where you talk about politics, a lot of them are historical or very like just the United States or just a specific spot. But with Model UN, you have the opportunity, well, you have to research current politics, what led to those politics in your country, how different people within the country might feel, and then you have to research politics, current politics of other nations. So you can't approach another delegate in the Model UN and just assume that they will be on the same side as you, even if they're within your block, even if they are also nearby to you.
You're certainly studying an issue from every perspective, which is wonderful. I mean, it's a good learning opportunity. It makes you a good debater to know their side of the debate before you can make your own.
Yes.
So excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. I do want to ask you though, were you aware of Mary Kirk Kelly? Was it eye-opening to learn that she was the person who started, it was a woman who started Model UN?
I had not heard of her before, so I was really excited to learn more about her, and it makes me even more proud to be part of the program, especially this year because all three of our officers were women. I was president, my friend Jules was vice president, and then our treasurer was my friend Hadley, and we were really proud of that. We were really excited. So that makes me feel even more proud that we had the opportunity to just show how it can prepare strong women to be researchers, to be politicians, to be historians.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience. We're so glad to have you here. And thank all of you for watching. That wraps up this edition of Newsmakers. I'm Lisa Allegas.